Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Hello and welcome to Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. I'm Becky Parker-Geist and I'm your host. Audiobook Connection is your place to learn about the audiobook creative process and for authors to learn valuable tips on producing and marketing your audiobooks. This podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Hi, everyone. I'm glad you're with me today. I wanted to focus today's episode on something that I touched on in our last episode, which is how to use sequences to help promote your audiobook series. In order to implement most of what we're going to talk about today, you will actually need a way to access the customer email information for those people who are purchasing your audiobooks. And while you won't be able to get that information from sales that happen through retail platforms, music channels, libraries, you will be able to for any that are purchased through an Amplify page. Amplify, if you missed the previous episode, is a program offered by Pro Audio Voices, and it's a way to be able to sell your audiobook directly. In other words, not through a retail platform, but direct delivery, which means that you have a lot more control. And just check out the previous episode about amplifying your distribution and marketing, and you can hear all the details of how Amplify can be of help to you. In this episode, we're going to focus on this idea of series. And just to set the context, I want to expand that a little bit to share an idea on how you can maybe split up your audiobook if you have a very long audiobook. So a lot of content that maybe was written and created as a single book, but could be split out into smaller segments as a way of releasing your audiobook in chunks. We did this with one of our clients who has a very long book. It's about 30 to 35 hours of total audiobook length, and it contains a lot of health information, and so it's kind of like a reference book, but much more of a narrative. And the content was already split out in the book into several parts. We then looked at the fact that it was going to be a long time between the time we started and the time that we finished the full audiobook for people to wait if they wanted to get that information sooner. So we looked at it as a kind of opportunity to segment the audiobook in a way that would both benefit the listeners, both because they'd get earlier access and also because they could pay for just a small piece that maybe was of particular interest due to its specific content. And so factoring in what that user experience is, and then also on the other side, how can we best use the information that we have, the content that we have to create a better experience in terms of the marketing of it. So again, we took this large content, broke it out into smaller audiobooks that we could then roll out as a part of a launch plan for the full audiobook, which will also be available. What we did in this case was we offered what we termed Book 1 of the total, and we submitted that also for distribution through the larger network, Audible, iTunes, audiobooks.com, etc. And then for the books that would be in between, in other words, the next segments leading up to the full audiobook, would only be offered on the Amplify page. The final full audiobook would also be submitted for full distribution. So that gave an opportunity to offer the smaller segments at smaller prices, and also to drive traffic to the Amplify page using the first book and letting people know where to go to get the next segment, right? Then once they're in the Amplify system, then they can get notifications about the next books. They can also see as they roll out. Yeah, basically we were leveraging the size of that content to the advantage, both of the listener and of the author. And now looking at a client where they have about 11 books in their series already, we were able also to look at how we can help them to build a sequence that is going to support the idea and activity of customers coming back again and again to get the next book in the series. I'm referring now to the Enigma series by Berkey and Brakefield. And so we'll talk about some of the techniques that we're using in these different situations. We'll also be using this same technique with the Adam Weldon thriller series by William McGinnis. Before we dive into the nuts and bolts of that, I want to call out something that could be an issue for you if you have been on this journey where you have several titles and maybe you started with ACX and maybe you started exclusive. This was also true with the Berkey and Brakefield series, that they started that way and then learned that, oh, there's a better way, and there's a transition that is happening. One of the first things we wanted to identify was, of the series that they have in audio that is available to put on the Amplify page, which of those is the best starting place? And that was easy for them to identify and very clear. So that was great. And so it's really just book number 1 that is not currently available to put on that site. So you may be wondering, well, what do we do about that? We don't want to drive traffic away from the Amplify page. We want people to purchase there. But we also want them to know that book 1 is also available in audio. So what we're doing is we have the clear starting place, the clear call to action, start here with book 2, and then we do let people know in a note that book 1 is also available in audio on Audible and iTunes. And I want to drive home a point here. It's something that Todd Walker talked about in the interview with him, and that is about making clear calls to action. So when you have a website, you want it to be really clear what you want your visitor to do. If you're just providing information and there's all this information at the top and there are no buttons, there's no clear call to action at the top, the likelihood is that they may not stay long enough to actually get to where you're asking them to do a thing. So you want to make it really clear, big, nice, bold button, buy here, whatever it is that you want them to do, learn more. And then also giving them a secondary option if they're not ready to hit that button just yet. So in this example, with the book that's available on Audible, we did not provide a link to go to Audible to buy book 1, because that's not the action we want them to take. We want them to either start with book 2 or learn more about the other books in the series that are on the Amplify page. Let's take a short pause, and then we're going to jump right into the nuts and bolts of what we want to do with our sequences.
Looking for a marketing plan and the support to implement it? At Pro Audio Voices, we're here to help. The audiobook marketing program offers 3 levels of launch packages to meet your needs. Each 3-month program includes a custom marketing blueprint that is created through one-to-one strategy sessions with our marketing strategy team. You'll get access to the AMP membership portal with modules you can go through at your own pace, as well as a checklist to keep you on track. You'll also get a custom-built library of marketing assets, videos you can use in the places you'll be focusing on based on your marketing blueprint, a monthly coaching call, custom keywords and hashtags, your own direct sales landing page where you'll earn 70% of whatever price you said. And that's just the beginning. Visit audiobookmarketingprogram.com to learn more.
Okay, so the tools and materials that you're going to need to be able to implement this plan are you're going to need contact information, email information for your customers, and you're going to need multiple titles that are available in audio. Now, there are ways they don't necessarily have to all be in audio. You could do this in a way where, let's say you have book 1 in audio and the others aren't available in audio at all, or maybe they're in production. If that's the case, that they're in production, you could treat the next book in the series as a pre-order option. If, however, they are not going to be available in audio, at least in the near future, then you could create a series still where you're going to invite people to get your book in a different format with some special discount. Now, there are all different kinds of marketing and email platforms, and I'm not going to try to sort out, all the different ways and all the different platforms. I'm going to keep it as general as I can, and hopefully this will provide the information that you need to either implement it yourself or to get help with whoever may be helping you with that kind of funnel or content or email marketing. Step number 1 is to identify what the trigger is. So in the case of someone coming to an Amplify page and buying book 1, let's say, in a series, that's the trigger, is the purchase. An alternative trigger might be somebody visiting the page. And as long as they are providing their email information, as in, let's say, opt in to get updates or learn more, then you'll be able to also implement it with that as a potential trigger. And you might have more than one trigger, and they would be probably different sequences. Sequences are really just a series of emails, and they can be automated, which can be really helpful, so that you're not trying to send personal individual emails every time somebody buys your audiobook or your book, right? So we rely on automation to be able to serve more people, to be able to get our message out more widely and more consistently. And the reason we do this, and I want to make this really clear, because, marketing sometimes gets a bad rep, and it sometimes deserves it. But if the goal is to have a positive impact in somebody's life, if your content is going to be helpful to them, whether it's entertainment or information or something that will be of value to their lives, and that's the only way an exchange is going to happen. That's the only way they're going to buy your book or your audiobook, is if they recognize that there is value there for them. Then this continuing the conversation, which is the way I like to think about that, staying in front of them, being present with them, is a way to help them benefit more. And I think that when we all stay in that mindset, it can really help everything. So coming back to this idea of these automated sequences, being able then to allow you to have a greater reach, a more consistent outreach to your customers, this is really helpful. Email sequences can be set up in any number of like funnel platforms or email campaign kinds of platforms, but typically they're called email sequences. Once you know what the trigger is, step number 2 is figuring out and creating and crafting the message that you want to send next. And how soon after that trigger happened do you want that email to be received by them? Those are two really different questions, and they depend a lot on what it is that you're offering next. With the email sequence that I suggest for the series, if they have purchased one in the series, consider how long it might take for your average listener to get through that audiobook, and then you can time the next one to be about the time that they would be ready for the next book in your series. At that point, it would be a really nice offer to send out a discount coupon available to them because they purchased the first one. And you can work your way all the way through the series just like that. With each purchase, you could provide a discount to the next one. They could be the same amount, they could be different, totally up to you. With Amplify, of course, you're going to be able to control that pricing and those discounts. If you're doing this in some other way, then just keep in mind that you'll need to factor in how that gets implemented. Another thing that you might consider asking them is for a review, or what else would they like to know about? What other content would be of value to them? Try and engage them in more of a conversation. Ask them questions, provide offerings. What are the other things that you want them to be able to do? And here we're really talking about what is your customer value journey? What steps are they taking along the way on their path with you? And then these emails can be a support in that process and a guide, like a path that they're following as they walk forward with you. Once you have your message figured out and crafted, and you've figured out what the timing should be between each of those messages, then you can implement that email sequence into your marketing platform or your email program. And so email sequences can really be as simple as that. It's just a series of messages that will help guide your customers along their way with you. That's all I have for you today. I hope you have an awesome day, and thank you again for listening. If you have questions, please reach out to us at proaudiovoices.com. Thanks again. Thanks for joining us for Audiobook Connection, behind the scenes with the creative teams. Please take a moment to subscribe at audiobookconnection.com. The podcast is sponsored by Pro Audio Voices, helping great stories come alive through audiobook production and marketing. Learn more at proaudiovoices.com. Again, thanks for being with us, and please join us next week.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.